Thank you for calling the Bombas Comfort Line. Bombas make socks, slippers, tees, and underwear made with the highest quality materials. Press 1 for comfort, 2 for style, 3 for donation. You chose style. Bombas has styles for whatever you enjoy. You can run in Bombas, lounge in Bombas, dress them up, dress them down, but always give back in Bombas. Because with every item purchased, another is donated. Bombas, comfort worth calling for. Go to bombas.com/audio and use code AUDIO for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com and use code AUDIO.
Welcome to the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Hey, what's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Josh All coming to you on a Friday. Happy end of the week to everybody out there. I hope everybody had a great week. I hope the weekend is looking good for you and you're amped up for some wild card weekend football here in the NFL. Of course, the Cleveland Browns not a part of that. Haven't been for a couple years now, but we do have some good matchups coming this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Don't forget about the Monday game. We've got head coaching stuff going on. I did a couple episodes this week already talking about Kevin Stefanski getting fired and some of the other coaches that are on the radar for the Cleveland Browns. The biggest news coming yesterday was Mike McDaniel, the head coach for the Miami Dolphins. Now, he's been fired. I guess before I cut off my news blurb there, he was a name that was reported, I want to say a couple weeks ago. I know the season hadn't ended yet, and it might have been Mary Kay at Cleveland.com was reporting that if Mike McDaniel were to be let go, the Cleveland Browns would be interested in looking at him for their head coaching position. And now, of course, that he's been fired, we've gotten those reports. The Browns are interested, again, according to Mary Kay. Mike McDaniel, if you do not remember or know this, which again, this is 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So if you're a newer Browns fan or, you weren't paying attention that closely years and years ago to all the coaching positions on the team, well, then you might not know this, and that's totally fine. Mike McDaniel was the wide receiver coach for the Cleveland Browns in 2014 under head coach Mike Pettin and offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan. That's right. We had Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel on the offensive staff for the Browns. And that year did not go well because that was the Brian Hoyer, Johnny Manziel debacle. Kyle Shanahan with his PowerPoint got the hell out of here, went to Atlanta. Mike McDaniel followed him, went along, and then, of course, the two ended up, I believe, in San Francisco together. But now, Mike McDaniel on the open market for head coaching. So let me know in the comments if you guys think the Browns should be interested in Mike McDaniel. Now, that would make 8 teams that need head coaches. That is 25%, 1/4 of the NFL right now is looking for a head coach. I saw this reported on Twitter earlier, and that's interesting because they're saying kind of a difficult year to be looking for a head coach because there's so much demand this year. Sometimes we get 5 new head coaching openings. We have 8 right now, and there still could be more. We're getting some smoke that if the Packers crap the bed here in wildcard weekend, that Matt LaFleur could potentially be out as the head coach in Green Bay. They could be looking at somebody like a John Harbaugh or who knows. But either way, no matter what ends up happening this week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were another team that was rumored to be exploring a head coaching change with Todd Bowles. They end up keeping him and firing and just wiping out the rest of the coaching staff completely. They're all gone, but Todd Bowles remains. So it's an interesting time in the NFL for sure. So let me, I got a voicemail I want to play today. Just wanted to touch on some of that coaching news, but the big thing for today, and I should have said this at the top of the show, I am going to do my first mock draft for you guys of the season. Let's call this a rough mock. This isn't like the final draft. This is a rough draft mock because, again, the NFL season for the Browns just ended on Sunday. It hasn't even been a week yet. I have not done any film study, prospect breakdown stuff whatsoever beyond what I prepared for today. So my first mock draft here, because I've gotten so many requests from you guys, and I appreciate it. It makes me feel good that you guys want to hear my take on the prospects and the mock draft and everything for the Browns heading into this season, off season. So thank you for that. And, when you guys are asking for me to do stuff, I feel obligated to do it. So I'm doing it. Mock Draft 1.0, loosely, like I said, Rough Draft Mock 1.0. But I'll dive into that here in a second after I play the voicemail. First, head to jointhedogs.com if you want to be part of the Dog Pack community. Get over there, sync up with the private Discord, hang out with all the diehard Browns fans, 24/7 conversations going on in there. The head coaching search conversations right now, all the news and updates and stuff that's going on and people talking about in there. If you're looking for like-minded Browns fans, not just anybody out there like, in the Twitter sphere and all that stuff, at like dedicated Browns fans and their perspective on what's going on in the news cycle, this community is the place to be. So that's jointhedogs.com. We got the Dog Pack Discord live episode this week will be on Sunday. We're going to try a weekend now that we're not doing preview shows. So we're going to do it Sunday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern. That's when that episode will take place. So if you want to be on that show, you want to have an opportunity to come up and talk to us, ask questions, jointhedogs.com is where you get access to that as well. Okay, so like I said, before I get into the mock draft, I want to hit this voicemail real quick. This one is from Andrew.
What's up, guys? Andrew here from Newcastle. Hope you're all good. I just want to talk about the Browns' plans for the 2 first-round draft picks. I know a lot of people are wanting us to take 2 wide receivers with our draft picks. However, I'm of the mind that we'd be better off taking an offensive tackle with the first pick, particularly because I have a suspicion that the Giants are going to be selecting Carnell Tate, which then would leave us with the second best receiver in the draft. I think we'd be better off taking either the guy from Miami or Fano from Utah. I think history's shown that it's a lot harder to find elite tackles than elite wide receivers, particularly once you get out of the first round. I think the best approach would be take a tackle with the first pick, a receiver with the second pick, and then a receiver in the second round as well. That'll be my ideal approach. Go Browns.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for the voicemail, and that will lead us into the first mock draft here of the offseason 2026. So before I get into my picks, and just so you guys know, I am not doing an entire mock draft. I think the Browns have 10 or 11 picks in this draft. That's it's crazy. And of course, like I said, I have not done all my prospect research or anything like that. So what I'm going to do here today is I'm going to go through the first 5 picks that the Browns have. So that'll be through 3 rounds. They're 3 rounds 1, 2, and 3. So we've got pick 6. We've got estimated, I'm going to go with pick 28 right now. That's what I'm seeing on most of the websites. That's kind of what they're projecting for the Jaguars pick in the first round. So toward the end of that first round. And then we've got pick 39 in the second round, pick 70, and then pick 107. So those will be the 5 picks that I'm going to mock here today. So to real quick touch on what Andrew was saying, because you guys will see what I ended up doing here in this first mock. I don't know if there's an elite tackle in this draft as far as like a left tackle. I don't know yet. There's so many people out there that have done more prospect analysis and breakdowns already than I have. And I just know that to find an elite level alpha wide receiver outside of the first round of the draft is very difficult. I don't trust Andrew Berry to do it or to be able to do it. The only other way outside of using a first round pick on a receiver to get that type of player is to go trade for one. And I don't see the Browns doing that either. So if the Giants, which I have seen this in a lot of spots, I've seen them taking Carnell Tate right before us at pick 5. If that were to happen, I'm okay taking Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State. I'm okay with that. Again, without having gone through, I really want to dive into his injury history because I know that's a big detractor for a lot of people, but I know he's a hell of a player. He's a very good wide receiver. And if you remember, going back just a couple years, like just because we get the second wide receiver in the draft doesn't mean we're getting the second best wide receiver in the draft. Marvin Harrison Jr. went really early to the Cardinals a couple years ago, and then a few picks later, the Giants took Malik Neighbors. Who has had the better NFL career so far? I know Malik Neighbors went out with the ACL this year, but I don't think it's an argument. I don't think anybody would argue that Malik Neighbors hasn't been better on an NFL field so far than Marvin Harrison Jr. So just because we love Carnell Tate here on this show, obviously we're Buckeyes fans. We've watched him play. We see the upside there. And ESPN, like I've said, currently has him as the only wide receiver with a first-round grade. Now, that can change as we get closer to the draft, but that's just how it sits right now. Does not mean that any of these other receivers can't also be good. And I'm actually really getting higher on Mekhi Lemon out of USC, the Biletnikoff winner. Tackles, again, I need to really dive into the prospects here and look at these offensive linemen, where they're projected to go. But obviously, I'm doing the mock draft here, and I'm not going to do an Andrew Berry and go through a draft and not take any offensive linemen. So, thanks again, Andrew, for the voicemail. Again, if you guys want to get your voicemails on the show, head to thedogspodcast.com. Tap leave voicemail in the drop-down menu. You can leave a voicemail, record it, listen back, make sure you like it, whatever, send it in, or you can just type in a message, which I as I'm saying, that's kind of why I stuttered there. I just remembered I do have a message from the website from somebody. So unless I wish I could tell you guys in the chat, not let me forget, but I'm recording this by myself. So I'm going to have to make myself a note. And then hopefully I can hit that up. It's a long one. That's why I haven't done it yet. It's a long message from the website, but we'll try to dive into that here. Quick break, then into the mock. This episode is sponsored by Kalshi. Browns fans, are you ready to put your money where your predictions are? With Kalshi, America's #1 regulated prediction market, you can legally trade on events that actually matter to you. And the best part is you don't need to predict specific stat lines and compile a 7-leg parlay to win big. With Kalshi, the objective is either yes or no. Will Miami beat Ole Miss? Will Indiana take down Oregon? Which team will win the Super Bowl? And who will be the first pick in the NFL draft? You can put your money on these predictions and more with Kalshi. If you want to try it out, Kalshi is giving $20 to anyone who signs up at kalshi.com/dogs. That's KALSHI.com/dogs, DAWGS, and trade $100. Get away from those disadvantageous sports books and dive into real-world outcomes with real-time odds and real payouts. Head over to kalshi.com/dogs or click the link in the description to get $20 when you trade $100 with Kalshi. That's Kalshi, because why shouldn't you get paid for being right?
Hey, Sal.
Hank, what's going on? We haven't worked a case in years.
I just bought my car at Carvana, and it was so easy. Too easy.
Think something's up?
You tell me. They got thousands of options. Mm-hmm. Found a great car at a great price. Uh-huh. And it got delivered the next day.
It sounds like Carvana just makes it easy to buy your car, Hank.
Yeah, you're right. Case closed.
Buy your car today on Carvana. Delivery fees may apply.
All right, thanks for hanging around, everybody. Let's dive into this first mock draft of the offseason here. And we are going to roll into pick 6 in the first round for the Cleveland Browns. And in this mock, the New York Giants do not snipe Carnell Tate ahead of the Browns. We take Carnell Tate, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. If any of you followed the show, you should not be surprised that on my very first mock draft, I'm going to put Carnell Tate to the Cleveland Browns, okay? That's happening, gosh darn it, in this first one. So, Carnell Tate, 6'3", 195, just 20 years old. He will turn 21 here in about 10 days, I think. 2025 season had 51 catches, 875 yards, and 9 touchdowns. And I forget how many games he missed. It was either 2 or 3, I believe, and I know he was banged up back in that Michigan game. So he did a lot of this damage, 875 yards and 9 touchdowns on not a full season. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind when you're looking at the numbers and what he was able to do in the limited time that he was able to do it. So, and again, we're talking about Jordan Tyson having an injury history. It's kind of scary here. We've got Carnell Tate missed some time this year with an injury. We had Jackson Smith and Jigba. Don't forget, his last year at Ohio State missed like the entire season with a hamstring injury and then came out his rookie season and didn't do much. Now he's the best receiver in the league. He led the whole league in receiving. So you just can't go wrong taking a wide receiver in the first round from Ohio State. So really, the information I'm getting for this, I'm going to read to you guys, kind of like I did last year on these mocks, from Draft Buzz and Pro Football Network. So the information from Draft Buzz says this. Carnell Tate will thrive in an NFL offense that maximizes his route precision and intermediate excellence, profiling as a high-floor possession receiver who understands professional concepts. He's a natural Z receiver who dominates in that 10 to 20-yard sweet spot where timing matters, with his smooth efficiency and all route running aspects translating seamlessly to NFL systems. The tape shows a receiver whose body control at the stem and tactical intelligence create separation without elite burst, fitting perfectly into timing-based systems where quarterbacks need receivers who hit landmarks precisely and understand spatial leverage against zone coverage. His intermediate game and elite understanding of zone manipulation separate him from other prospects in this class. It goes on to say, offensive coordinators running West Coast principles will see a receiver tailor-made for their system, someone who understands how to beat man coverage with technique rather than pure athleticism. The film reveals a receiver who hunts first downs with purpose. His competitive mentality shows up most clearly when corners try to bully him. Instead of wilting, he fights through contact and makes tough grabs anyway with his reliable hands and toughness over the middle. His contested catch numbers this year in college were insane. I don't know off the top of my head here. I didn't look what they ended with, but I know at the end of the season that he was like 12 of 14 on contested catches during the season. The dude goes up, he'll go down the field, go up for the ball, and come down with it. This Draft Buzz goes on to say what keeps Tate from being considered truly elite is speed. Good, but not game-breaking, with concerns about whether his rumored time reflects his developmental ceiling. And that rumored time, I believe, is a 4.6, which is not fast for a wide receiver. I don't expect Carnell Tate will be running the 40 at his pro day or at the combine. He wins with his brain and his hands, not by simply running past defenders, though this limitation could impact his draft stock significantly. When I compare his tape to recent Ohio State products, I see more Chris Olave than Garrett Wilson in his game. That's fine with me. A technician who wins with nuance rather than pure explosiveness. He's a player with immediate NFL readiness, but potentially limited upside, representing a day one contributor with immediate third down value who brings championship pedigree despite lacking elite natural gifts. Now, if you remember, and maybe I'm misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure when Chris Olave came out, he was not projected to run the 40 time that he did, and he ended up crushing the 40. So I want to keep some of that stuff in mind. We're here at beginning of January. We've got a long way to go to the combine. We've got a long way to go to the draft. So things will change, but this is where these analysts, these scouts and everything currently sit on Carnell Tate. And then you flip over to Pro Football Network, and here's what they say about Carnell Tate. He has reinvented his game and has become a true route running expert with rare sync, throttle control, and stem IQ for his size. He still has the long strider range, body control, and catch point focus that makes him so potent in 50-50 situations, like I talked about a little bit ago. But he's a true multi-level separator who can win one-on-one, convert on clutch downs, and generate big plays. A complete X or movement Z, Tate will assuredly keep Ohio State's first-round streak at wide receiver alive, and he has impact starter ability. So there you go. Pick 6 in the first round, the Cleveland Browns take Carnell Tate, wide receiver from Ohio State. Now, Andrew, everybody else out there, where should the Browns go at pick 28? I just took a receiver at 6. I was torn here because I wanted to take a certain position. And then as I did a little more research onto projected availability, again, I use Mock Draft Database when I put these mock drafts together because they do an aggregate of all the mock drafts being done out there, all the industry. So ESPN, PFF, CBS, Sports Illustrated, all the mock drafts that get done out there. They average it out to where each player is projected to go. And I like doing it that way. Last year, it really helped me understand where players should or could be available in the draft. And when I went through the next 3 picks after 28, it changed my mind about what to do at pick 28. So pick 28, the Browns double tap that wide receiver position. KC Concepcion, wide receiver out of Texas A&M, 5'11", 190 pounds, 21 years old. Concepcion had 61 catches for 919 yards and 9 touchdowns this year at Texas A&M. He also rushed 10 times for 75 yards and another score. Now, Concepcion, this is from Draft Buzz. His bread and butter comes when he's working the intermediate parts of the field. Watch him on dig routes and deep overs, and you see a completely different player than the guy running bubble screens. He's at his best when he can build up speed and use his crafty footwork to gain separation, rather than relying on pure burst off the line. This isn't a guy who will consistently win with raw athleticism in the NFL. He wins with savvy and route detail. His role at the next level lands somewhere between a complementary piece and offensive chess piece. You can't stick him in there as an every down option early on. He'll get bodied in blocking situations on the boundary. But give him opportunities to find soft spots against zone. That's where his film really pops. He's got natural feel for space that some receivers never develop. The 2025 season at Texas A&M will be massive. This is obviously written before the year. This says we will need to see if that sophomore slump was just a blip or a real concern, yada, yada, yada. But he's got a high floor as a guy who can line up all over the formation. What I love most is how he runs after the catch. Got some nasty to his game that makes him play bigger than his size shows on paper. So again, this information and stuff's going to get updated because not even all the scouts have updated their stuff after this 2025 football season. Pro Football Network says KC Concepcion will be a darling of analytically minded evaluators after his true freshman breakout at NC State. In his very first collegiate season, he caught 71 passes for 839 yards and 10 touchdowns. He added 320 more yards on the ground, 7.8 yards per attempt, good for 1,159 total yards from scrimmage, and a total yardage share over 25% as a freshman, a true freshman. That's insane. That's a stud right there. His second season at NC State was much less efficient, but in a new environment, he may be able to reclaim his standing in the NFL draft. Pecking order, again, that they haven't even updated their stuff from this year yet either. So it's really difficult to get a good gauge on what scouts are currently saying about a lot of these players. But I know that he's projected first round. I don't think anybody really has him falling out of the first round. I think to snag him at the end of the second round or the end of the first round here, right before the second round, is a good spot for Cleveland to get two receivers, one who can come in and contribute immediately in Carnell Tate. And then Concepcion can kind of work his way in as he develops and grows at the NFL level, because we still have Jerry Jeudy. I know how we feel about Jerry Jeudy, but in a better offensive system with a quarterback behind an offensive line that can actually block for him. And I understand I have not taken offensive linemen yet. We'll talk about that. I think Jerry Jeudy can be better than what we saw this year. Obviously, we saw it last year in 2024. He's better than what we saw this year. He's a head case. So that's his problem. And we also have Cedric Tillman. We'll still have Isaiah Bond. We are going to have a much better wide receiver core to incorporate a guy like Concepcion, especially if we take Tate or Tyson, either one, early on in the first round. Now, I'm projecting the Browns to go more heavy at offensive line and free agency than wide receiver. If you go look at the available free agents at each position, I don't have it up right now, so I'm not going to read the names. I don't care. I don't want to read the names. Wide receiver is a big old nothing burger. I've said it a million times before, and I will say it a million times again. You do not find a high-level, elite, number one wide receiver in free agency. They don't exist. And the question is why? Why don't they exist in free agency, Josh? Why can't you get one in free agency? Because teams that have that player do not let him hit free agency. He either gets extended or he gets traded. Those players are so highly sought after that they never hit free agency. Go back. Tell me the last alpha level wide receiver one that somebody picked up in free agency. Okay. It does not happen outside of like a Devontae Adams, who's 37,000 years old. Yes, those kind of players can be had in free agency, but the young stud guys, the high level elite players, they're not in free agency. Offensive line, on the other hand, a little different story. You can get good, high-level starting caliber players on your offensive line in free agency. So I'm anticipating Andrew Berry to be very active and very aggressive at the offensive line position in free agency, which allows me to take 2 wide receivers in the first round, like I just did in this mock draft. Now, I'm telling you guys right now, not every mock I do leading up to the draft in the next 3-4 months is going to have 2 wide receivers in the first round. It's just not going to happen. This time, though, to kick off the draft talk this year, it did. Because at pick 39, I am taking offensive lineman Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. 6'5", 315 pounds, 22 years old. He turns 23 here in May. Dunker has legitimate NFL talent with a ceiling that will depend entirely on where teams decide to play him. At Iowa, he dominated as a road grader in the run game with overwhelming power and finishing ability. But the transition to the pros will require positional clarity. So whether they want to play him at tackle or guard, kind of like this sort of player right here, because guess what the Browns need? Tackle and guard. I don't know what they're going to address or how they'll address each of those positions in free agency. So right now, early in this process, I like a guy like Jennings Dunker. When facing elite speed rushers, his footwork occasionally betrays him, and technical refinements in his pass protection will be necessary regardless of position. His hand usage needs polish. Too often he's late with his punch, allowing defenders into his chest before he can establish control. While his nastiness and play strength jump off the tape, NFL defenders will exploit his occasional high pad level and limited lateral agility. Teams must decide whether his future lies at tackle, where his length is questionable, or inside at guard, where his mauling style seems tailor-made. What makes Dunker intriguing isn't just the physical tools, but the football intelligence that shows up when diagnosing stunts and blitzes. The cerebral side of his game, perhaps influenced by his off-field intellectual curiosity, manifests in excellent zone blocking angles and second-level targeting. When the pads come on, Dunker transforms into a tone setter whose presence elevates the entire offensive line's mentality. He brings the same ferocity, whether leading the way on power runs or anchoring in pass protection. There's undeniable starter potential here for zone-heavy offensive schemes, but he'll need coaching to maximize his toolkit at the next level. The intangibles, toughness, competitiveness, football character are all there in spades. In a league where physicality still matters, Dunker's game has staying power, even as technical refinements remain ongoing. I like the dude. This is one of the guys I'm a little bit more familiar with just from like during the season, reading on some of these offensive linemen. I like Jennings Dunker. We'll see how that evaluation changes or progresses over the draft season here, but this is a guy that I would be very interesting putting a little bit more of that nasty that we got from Wyatt Teller earlier in his career. Get it back in here on this offensive line. This episode is sponsored by Vivid Seats. Browns fans, the football season might be over, but Vivid Seats has you covered for everything else that's going on as we get into 2026. We've got basketball, NBA, college. You know March Madness won't be too far off. Hockey games, the spring football leagues, baseball's right around the corner, and of course, all the best events like concerts, theater plays and musicals, and comedy shows. And right now, you can get $20 off your first Vivid Seats order of $200 or more with promo code DAWGS20. That's promo code DAWGS20, DAWGS20. Not only is Vivid Seats an official fan experience partner of the Cleveland Browns, they're also the only leading ticket company with a rewards program. Buy 10 tickets and get the 11th free. So every time you make a purchase, you get closer to earning discounts, seat upgrades, and free tickets. Every purchase on Vivid Seats is backed by their 100% buyer guarantee and industry-leading customer service team. So click the link in the description to download the Vivid Seats app now. And again, get $20 off your first Vivid Seats order of $200 or more with promo code DAWGS20, DAWGS20. New customers only, $200 minimum before taxes and fees. Visit vividseats.com for more details. Pro Football Network. Jennings Dunker is the name you see when you look up old school offensive lineman in the dictionary. He's a barrel-chested brute with a mammoth upper body and explosive lower body power. And as you'd expect from an old school lineman, he relishes the chance to bury defenders on blocks any chance he gets. Dunker excels at firing off the snap, driving his legs in the run game, and he has the high-level raw power element to generate hefty displacement off the line. Meanwhile, in pass protection, he's quietly very sound when it comes to playing balanced, square, and timing his punches effectively. He's somewhat stiff in the hips without elite length, and those two factors could push him inside to the guard position, but he's a quality talent and a tone setter at offensive tackle or guard. Jennings Dunker. That's where the Browns go in the second round with pick 39. Now, the next pick, 70. We're going to double tap this offensive line position the way we double tapped at wide receiver earlier. And at pick 70, we are going offensive tackle Carter Smith from Indiana. 6'5", 308 pounds. Carter Smith brings the functional strength, competitive makeup, and 3 years of high-level starting experience that translates immediately to professional football. His performance against elite Big Ten competition, particularly daily battles against potential first-rounder Mikal Kamara in practice, demonstrates readiness for the intensity jump. The question marks center on physical dimensions and positional versatility rather than ability. If measurements confirm adequate arm length at the combine, Smith has the anchor, punch timing, and awareness to hold down an NFL tackle spot in a gap scheme attack. His temperament and finishing ability fit perfectly in a downhill running system that values physicality over finesse, the type of offense that wants to impose its will rather than operate in space. The alternate path involves kicking Smith inside to guard, where his power would translate even more effectively and his length concerns would vanish. His inexperience at the position creates some risk, but his football intelligence, here we go again, same thing as Dunker. His football intelligence and technical foundation suggests the transition wouldn't require extensive retooling, just different landmarks and angles to learn. The leverage advantage inside would be substantial, and his ability to climb to linebackers on combo blocks already resembles what NFL guards do in their sleep. Teams running heavy personnel groupings with multiple tight ends and fullbacks should salivate over what Smith could provide as a mauler in the A or B gap. His willingness to strain and sustain through contact gives him starter potential wherever he lines up. Last paragraph here for Carter Smith. He won't dazzle anyone with athletic testing numbers, but football is played on grass, not on track. We say that all the time. His tape reveals a nasty, effective blocker who helped transform Indiana from doormat to contender in just 2 seasons. That resume speaks louder than any 40 time could ever speak. Whether he sticks at tackle or moves inside to guard, Smith's combination of power, awareness, and competitive drive gives him legitimate staying power. Same assessment that I just read for Jennings Dunker. Gives him legitimate staying power as an NFL starter for a coach who values toughness over flash. I'm trying to get gritty, guys. I'm trying to get nasty, dirty, mauling on my offensive line, and Jennings Dunker and Carter Smith are 2 guys that I'm very interested to see if the Browns are able to get in the NFL draft. And the final pick for today's rough mock draft, the first one of the pre or off season. I keep wanting to say preseason. The off season here. We're going to take our first defensive player, and I really hesitate here because I just wanted to go all offense all the time. But there is a position on defense we need to address, and I think this guy could be a good fit, at least as it sits here in January. So with pick 107, the Browns select safety Jaylen Kilgore out of South Carolina, 6'1", 219, big kid at the safety position, 20 years old, so he's another youngster. All these players fit the age guardrails for Andrew Berry very well and gives the Browns a good projection into the future with their young core that they drafted last year. So, the breakdown on Kilgore. With Kilgore, you are watching a defensive back whose run support jumps off the screen while his coverage skills remain a work in progress. There's undeniable value in his versatility across the secondary, though his tendencies to gamble in zone coverage will need refinement against NFL-caliber quarterbacks. The size-speed combination creates matchup opportunities against bigger receiving targets, yet the same aggressiveness occasionally leaves him vulnerable to double moves from craftier route runners. Kilgore's transition from high school wide receiver to SEC ball hawk reveals itself in how naturally he tracks the ball in flight, snagging those 5 interceptions last season with the instincts of someone who understands offensive intentions. Despite this natural playmaking ability, his technique in man coverage still shows some inconsistencies that better receivers will exploit if it's not addressed. The modern game demands defensive backs who can operate in multiple roles without substitution, a clear strength of his skill set, though developing more discipline in his assignments would elevate his overall effectiveness. And then they go on to talk about Kilgore in the upcoming season because, again, this has not been updated. But Pro Football Network goes on to say Jaylen Kilgore profiles as one of the most unique and multifaceted defensive backs in the 2026 NFL Draft. At 6'1", 219, with sprawling length and charged up explosion, he's taken reps at boundary cornerback, nickel, box safety, and field safety. Kilgore's versatility is a testament to his intelligence, vision, and football IQ, all traits that he used in tandem with his physical gifts to rack up 3 tackle for loss, 5 interceptions, and 5 pass breakups back in 2024. While his muscle-bound 219-pound frame imbues his game with modest hip stiffness at times, he has the corrective and reactive athleticism to match and plant and drive over top stems, and with his closing speed, he can hawk over ill-fated passes and punish in support. Best as a big nickel, but with all-encompassing flexibility, Kilgore can be a dynamic glue guy for an NFL defense. And if Jim Schwartz is still back here running the Browns defense in 2026, I think Jaylen Kilgore could be a nice addition to that secondary at the safety position. So there you go, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments as you're following along here. Again, rough first mock draft here of the offseason. Have not dive too deep into prospects or anything, but I know you guys were clamoring for some draft talk, for some mock draft projections and things like that. So here we go. The first one of the offseason, the Browns' first 5 picks in the draft go pick 6, Carnell Tate, wide receiver from The Ohio State University. Pick 28 from the Jacksonville Jaguars. They go KC Concepcion, wide receiver, Texas A&M. And then moving on, pick 39, offensive lineman, tackle or guard, Jennings dunker out of Iowa. Pick 70, offensive tackle or potentially offensive guard, Carter Smith out of Indiana. And then to wrap it all up, they go pick 107, safety, Jaylen Kilgore out of South Carolina. Let me know what you guys think. Appreciate you tuning in. This is always fun to do. Again, I know I said I was going to get to that message from the website, but I'm going to save that for the next episode. One, because my throat's getting a little scratchy here doing all this talking. It's a little bit later here than I intended for it to go. And my baby on the monitor is up and freaking crying. Kid, just go to sleep. Go to sleep and stay asleep. Come on. These kids, I'll tell you what. All right, guys, again, I appreciate you. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. We'll be with you. Discord Dog Pack Live on Sunday at 1. If you're not in the Discord, you will get that episode later in the afternoon on Sunday. I don't even know what we're going to be talking about. Head coaching stuff, all the news from this week, who we want. The show, that show is yours. That is your show. You guys lead it. You guys run it. You tell us what we're talking about, and we just go from there. So we'll talk to you guys on Sunday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the football coming up, and let's go Browns.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at The Dogs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedogspodcast.com.
This episode is sponsored by Kalshi. Browns fans, are you ready to put your money where your predictions are? With Kalshi, America's #1 regulated prediction market, you can legally trade on events that actually matter to you. And the best part is you don't need to predict specific stat lines and compile a 7-leg parlay to win big. With Kalshi, the objective is either yes or no. Will Miami beat Ole Miss? Will Indiana take down Oregon? Which team will win the Super Bowl? And who will be the first pick in the NFL draft? You can put your money on these predictions and more with Kalshi. If you want to try it out, Kalshi is giving $20 to anyone who signs up at kalshi.com/dogs. That's KALSHI.com/dogs, DAWGS, and trade $100. Get away from those disadvantageous sports books and dive into real-world outcomes with real-time odds and real payouts. Head over to Kalshi.com/dogs or click the link in the description to get $20 when you trade $100 with Kalshi. That's Kalshi.
If you're an HVAC technician and a call comes in, Grainger knows that you need a partner that helps you find the right product, fast and hassle-free. And you know that when the first problem of the day is a clanking blower motor, there's no need to break a sweat. With Grainger's easy-to-use website and product details, you're confident you'll soon have everything humming right along. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.